The first time I saw the light, I thought it was a trick of reflection. The hillside had long since surrendered to weeds and young trees, the old coal entrance half swallowed by brush and time. A rusted warning sign leaned sideways at the mouth of the shaft, its lettering nearly erased by decades of rain. According to county records, the mine had been sealed in the early 70s after a collapse claimed several workers whose bodies were never officially recovered. The town built a memorial. The company dissolved. The entrance was filled. That was the official version. But standing there at dusk, watching the eerie tree line darken against the slope of the Appalachian mountains, I could see clearly that the seal had not held. The timber bracing that once framed the opening had rotted inward, leaving a gap large enough for a person to pass through if they were willing to crouch. The earth around it had slumped, forming a shallow depression like a breath drawn into the mountain. I wouldn't have approached if not for the light. It flickered from deep inside the shaft, faint, unsteady, the color of flame rather than electricity, not the clean white beam of a flashlight, warmer, colder, older, like a lantern shielded by glass. It appeared only for a second, then vanished. I stood still, convincing myself it had been sunset refracting off something metallic, broken bottle glass, a reflective mineral vein, anything rational. Then it happened. Then it appeared again, further in, moving, not drifting randomly like a reflection, but traveling horizontally, disappearing behind the jagged outline of collapsed timber before re-emerging slightly lower. I felt the air change around me, even from outside the entrance. A cool draft slipped from the opening and brushed against my legs. It carried a smell that hadn't existed on the hillside moments before. Damp stone, old coal dust, something metallic underneath it all. I stepped closer. The temperature dropped immediately near the mouth of the shaft. The sound of insects in the grass behind me seemed to dull, replaced by a hollow stillness that swallowed surface noise. The light flickered once more, deeper now, faint but unmistakable. It paused, as if aware I was watching. The record said the last shift inside this mine ended abruptly during a partial cave-in. A section of the main tunnel collapsed, cutting off a smaller branch shaft. Rescue crews dug for days but eventually declared the remaining men lost beyond reach. The company sealed what they could. Officially, no one had been inside since. But the light was not stationary. It moved again, slowly, deliberately, deeper into the darkness, and against every rational instinct I had, I ducked beneath the warped beam and stepped into the mine. The darkness inside the shaft did not settle gradually. It swallowed me whole within 3 steps. The faint spill of twilight behind me collapsed into a narrow, gray slit, and the temperature dropped enough that I could see my breath faintly in the beam of my flashlight. The air was heavy, unmoving, laced with the smell of damp earth and something older, a mineral bitterness that clung to the back of my throat. My boots pressed into soft coal dust, each step producing a muffled crunch that sounded too loud in the confined space. The tunnel sloped downward at a shallow angle, reinforced by rotting timber beams spaced every few feet. Many had warped inward over time, bending slightly under the weight of the mountain above. I paused and switched off my flashlight. The blackness that followed was absolute. For a moment I questioned whether I had imagined the light entirely. Then it appeared again, deeper down the main shaft, a small flickering glow as though shielded by a hand. It moved with rhythm, not swaying wildly like a blues flame, but steady, controlled. It passed behind a support beam and emerged again farther along. The sound came next, faint at first, a dull metallic clink, then another, separated by several seconds. The unmistakable rhythm of metal striking stone. My pulse quickened. It was distant enough that it could have been natural rock shifting, water ripping against old equipment, but there was cadence to it, deliberate spacing between impacts. The light slowed, then stopped. It remained stationary at a bend in the tunnel where the main shaft split into two narrower corridors. One veered left, one right. The glow hovered at the junction, waiting. I moved forward cautiously, my flashlight beam kept low to avoid washing out the source of the other light. The floor dipped unevenly, forcing me to steady myself against damp stone walls. Cold dust clung to my palms immediately, blackening my skin. Another metallic strike echoed through the tunnel, closer now. I reached the junction and stopped. The lantern glow had shifted to the right-hand corridor. The left branch lay in complete darkness. For a moment I considered turning back. The rational part of my mind insisted that trespassing into an abandoned mine at night, one node for collapse, was reckless enough without chasing unexplained lights. But the right-hand tunnel carried something else with it. A draft, a faint current of air moving inward, as though something deeper within the mine was pulling breath from the surface. The light drifted farther down the right corridor, then paused again. The metallic sound came once more, louder this time, accompanied by something that tightened every muscle in my body. A low murmur, not wind, not rock settling. Voices, distant, indistinct, several of them, speaking in tones too low to decipher, their words swallowed by stone before reaching me fully. The lantern glow flickered in response to the sound, shifting slightly as if whoever carried it had adjusted their grip. I swallowed against the dryness in my throat and stepped into the right-hand tunnel. The moment I crossed the threshold, the temperature dropped again, and somewhere deeper in the mine, another pick struck stone. The tunnel narrowed as I moved deeper, forcing me to hunch slightly beneath beams that had bowed under decades of pressure. My flashlight beam skimmed along walls streaked with mineral veins and damp coal seams, but I kept it angled low, unwilling to overpower the lantern glow ahead of me. I was still there, steady, measured. The metallic strikes continued at irregular intervals, echoing through the shaft with a hollow resonance that didn't quite match the size of the corridor. Each impact seemed to travel farther than it should have, as though the sound were being carried by something beyond simple acoustics. The murmuring voices rose and fell in quiet waves. I still couldn't distinguish words, but the cadence was unmistakable. Multiple speakers overlapping slightly as if discussing something routine. The tone wasn't panicked, it wasn't distressed, it was workmanlike. That realization sent a deeper chill through me than any scream could have. This mine had been closed for over 50 years. The last recorded shift ended in chaos. The collapse had buried part of the lower branch entirely. Rescue attempts had been abandoned when further digging threatened to bring down the remaining structure. No one was supposed to be here, and yet the rhythm ahead of me felt practiced, familiar. I rounded a slight bend in the corridor, and the tunnel opened into a wider chamber, an old extraction room, if the rusted rails embedded in the floor were any indication. A broken cot lay tipped on its side, half consumed by sediment. The ceiling arched higher here, supported by thicker beams that creaked faintly as the mountain shifted above. The lantern light hung near the far end of the chamber, not suspended, held. I could see the outline now, a figure standing just beyond the edge of my flashlight's reach. Broad shoulders, slightly hunched posture, the glow illuminated the lower half of its frame, revealing boots thick with coal dust. It didn't move when I stopped. The pick struck stone again, but the sound hadn't come from the figure in front of me. It came from behind it. Another figure stepped into partial view, thinner, head lowered, swinging a tool in steady motion against the rock wall. Sparks flickered briefly at the point of contact. My breath caught. There were at least three of them now, shapes emerging gradually as my eyes adjusted. Their clothing hung heavy and dark, indistinguishable from the surrounding cool. Their faces were obscured, either by shadow or by something layered over their skin. None of them acknowledged me. The lantern bearer shifted slightly, turning just enough that the light cast upward across his torso. I saw no modern fabric, no reflective tape, no safety gear. Suspenders, heavy work shift, cloth cap pulled now, the kind worn in photographs from another century. The murmuring grew clearer for a moment, fragments of words brushing the edge of comprehension. Loaded. Brace that beam. Watch the seam. Old terminology, instructions that belonged to another era. My flashlight trembled in my hand. The chamber should have been empty. Instead, it felt occupied, alive with labor. The lantern bearer took a slow step forward, and for the first time he raised his head. The light climbed his face gradually. There were no eyes reflecting it back, only darkness beneath the brim of the cap, and cold dust drifting where features should have been. I did not step back. I don't know why I didn't. Every rational part of me screamed to turn and run for the mouth of the shaft, to claw my way back to open air and moonlight. But something about the scene held me in place, not paralysis exactly, but suspension, as though I had crossed into a space where movement required permission. The lantern bearer regarded me in silence. If there were eyes beneath the brim, they did not catch the light. The cold dust that veiled his face shifted faintly, drifting in slow, unnatural eddies despite the still air of the chamber. Behind him, the second figure continued its steady swing of the pick against the rock wall. Strike, pause, strike. The rhythm had weight to it. It vibrated faintly through the soles of my boots. A third shape moved along the rails near the overturned cart, bending and straightening in slow repetition as if loading it. I heard the scrape of metal wheels against iron track, though the cart itself did not visibly shift from its tipped position. The murmuring rose again, cleaner now, not distorted, not ghostly in tone, simply quiet voices engaged in routine labor. Timbers weak, shifts near done, watch the roof. The phrases carried the cadence of men who had spoken them countless times before. The lantern bearer took another step toward me. The flame did not flicker with his movement. It remained unnaturally steady, casting a warm circle that contrasted sharply with the cold beam of my flashlight. When the two lights overlapped, the effect was disorienting, as though I were seeing two different versions of the chamber occupying the same space. In the lantern's glow, the walls appeared intact. In my flashlight's beam, cracks spidered through the ceiling and several beams sagged precariously. The pick struck again, harder this time. A faint tremor ran through the chamber. Dust sifted down from above, catching both lights in a shimmering cascade. None of the figures reacted. They continued their work with the same measured pace. The lantern bearer angled his head slightly as if studying me. Then he turned away, not dismissing me, simply returning to his task. He walked toward the rail line, passing within a few feet of where I stood. As he moved, the temperature around me dropped sharply. The air felt thinner, heavier at the same time, pressing against my chest. I caught the faintest outline of his profile as he passed. There was no visible skin beneath the coal dust, not defined features, only shadow layered over shadow, as if his face had been eroded by time itself. He stopped beside the overturned cart. The other figures adjusted their positions. The pick ceased striking stone. For the first time since I had entered the chamber, there was silence, complete. the kind that exists only underground. The lantern was lifted higher, and in its glow I saw something that made my stomach tighten. The section of wall they had been working on was not intact rock. It was collapsed rubble, timber splintered, stone compacted inward, a sealed branch of the mine. The very section that record said had buried the missing men. The lantern bearer reached out slowly and pressed his hand against the collapsed stone. The other figures mirrored the motion, one by one, their palms resting flat against the rubble as if feeling for something beyond it, or remembering. A low creak echoed above us, not from their movement, from the ceiling. In my flashlight's beam, a hairline crack widened slightly along one of the support beams. Dust drifted down again, heavier this time. The lantern bearer did not turn toward me, but I felt, with a certainty I cannot explain, that he knew exactly where I stood, and that I was standing in a place the mountain had already claimed once before. The beam above me groaned again, not loudly, not dramatically, just a slow, splintering complaint that vibrated through the chamber like a warning spoken under its breath. My flashlight flickered once, only for a second, but in that second the lantern's glow intensified. Not brighter in volume, but denser somehow, thickening the air around the three figures as they stood with their hands pressed against the collapsed rock face. The rubble shifted, not outward, inward, as if something on the other side had leaned back. A faint trickle of dust slid from between the stones. The lantern bearer lowered his head slightly and the murmuring resumed, softer now, almost reverent. I couldn't catch full sentences anymore, only fragments drifting toward me. Still there, honed fast, nearly through. Nearly through. Through what? The sealed branch was solid, reinforced decades ago after the collapse. Rescue reports described compacted stone like concrete, impossible to clear without risking total failure of the upper shaft. The pick lifted again, but this time it did not strike. It hovered mid-air, waiting. The lantern bearer removed his hand from the rubble and stepped backward. The other two followed, moving with synchronized restraint. They turned slowly toward the center of the chamber, toward the rail line that led deeper into the mine beyond the collapse point, deeper than any official map allowed. I followed their gaze. The tunnel beyond the chamber extended into shadow, narrowing again, but there was something different about the darkness there. It wasn't empty. It felt layered, occupied. The lantern bearer began to walk toward that deeper shaft. The others fell into sleep behind him. The overturned cot beside them righted itself, not violently, not with a crash. It simply lifted upright with a soft scrape of metal against rail, as though set back in place by invisible hands. My throat tightened. The wheels rolled once, twice, then stopped. The lantern bearer paused at the entrance of the deeper tunnel. He did not turn fully toward me this time, but his head angled just enough that the brim of his cap lifted slightly. For the first time, I saw beneath it. There were no hollow sockets, no skeletal features, just absence, a smooth darkness where a face should have been, edged by drifting coal dust that never settled. The lantern flame flickered once. In that brief pulse, I saw additional shapes behind him in the deeper shaft. More figures, standing shoulder to shoulder in the blackness, waiting, not moving, not working, just present. The air pressure in the chamber shifted abruptly, like the moment before a storm breaks. My ears popped. The ceiling creaked again, louder now, and a sharp crack split across one of the beams near the entrance I had come through. The lantern bearer lifted his arm slowly and gestured toward the deeper tunnel, not beckoning, not inviting, indicating, as if to say, "This is where the shift continues." The pick struck stone once more, but this time the sound did not echo. It was absorbed instantly, swallowed by the mind as though it had never existed. The lantern flame dimmed, the figures began to move into the deeper shaft, and the ceiling above me gave a sudden, splintering snap. The snap above me was sharp and final. A timber split down its length with a sound like a rifle crack, and a section of ceiling sagged several inches, releasing a heavy curtain of dust and gravel. I stumbled backward instinctively, raising my arm over my face as debris struck my shoulders and helmetless head. When I looked up again, the lantern glow was already retreating, not hurried, not panicked, simply continuing its steady progression into the deeper tunnel, as if the instability of the chamber meant nothing to those who walked with it. The overturned cart rolled forward along the rails without visible force, wheels turning smoothly despite decades of corrosion. The sound it made was worse, too clean, too recent, metal against metal without the grinding resistance that rust should have produced. The deeper shaft swallowed them one by one, first the lantern bearer, then the figure with the pick, then the others whose shapes had lingered in the darkness beyond. For a brief moment, the chamber stood empty, silent, dust drifting in the crossing beams of my flashlight. The ceiling creaked again. A second beam bowed inward with visible strain. I turned toward the entrance I had come through, calculating the distance, the slope, the time it would take to reach open air before another collapse sealed the tunnel entirely. Then I heard it, behind me. From the deeper shaft, the steady rhythm of picks striking stone, not three, not four, many. Layered impacts overlapping in uneven cadence, echoing from a depth the mind's blueprints had never charted. The sound was not chaotic, it was organized, methodical. Like a full shift at work, the lantern glow reappeared at the edge of the deeper tunnel, but it was no longer alone. Another flicker ignited beside it, then another. Small flames blinking into existence one by one, stretching into the darkness like a string of stars buried beneath rock. The air temperature dropped further. My breath came in thin clouds. The murmuring voices returned, louder now, not frantic, not aggressive, simply focused. Brace it. Cut through. Almost there. The words overlapped and multiplied, too many to assign to individual mouths. The lantern bearer stepped back into partial view. He stood at the threshold of the deeper shaft, holding his light high. The others filled the corridor behind him, their forms barely distinguishable from the surrounding cold. He lifted the lantern once, then lowered it slowly toward the ground at his feet. The motion was deliberate, measured, a signal. The picks stopped striking, all at once. The silence that followed pressed against my ears. The lantern bearer extended his arm again, not toward the deeper shaft this time, but toward the chamber ceiling, toward the weakened beams. The message was unmistakable. They were not trying to escape. They were not trying to break through the collapsed beam behind them. They were digging forward, advancing, toward the upper shafts, toward the surface. The beam above me groaned one final time. A shower of splinters rained down, and somewhere beneath my boots, deep within the unseen layers of the mind, something shifted upward. The floor trembled beneath me, not violently, not enough to throw me off balance, but with a slow, deliberate pressure rising from below, like something vast adjusting its weight beneath the earth. I backed toward the entrance tunnel, my flashlight beam shaken as it passed over fractured beams and widening cracks. The chamber no longer felt abandoned, it felt occupied by intention. Behind me, the lantern flames in the deeper shaft began to move, not forward, upward. The illusion was subtle at first, a faint climb in their position along the corridor walls, but there was no mistaking it. The lights were descending along a branch that sloped beneath the chamber's foundation, digging toward the surface, The murmuring grew stronger, no longer distant, closer. Layered voices speaking in firm, coordinated tones. The language was still English, but older in its cadence, shaped by an era when shifts were measured by whistles and pay was counted in coin, not checks. "Raise it," said the brace. "Hold steady." The pick strikes resumed, and this time I could feel them in my bones. Each impact pulsed through the soles of my boots and up my spine as if the mountain itself were becoming hollow beneath me. A section of wall to my left cracked open with a dry snap. Coal dust poured out in a thin stream, followed by a pebble that struck the floor and rolled toward the rail line. I turned and ran. The tunnel sloped upward more steeply than I remembered, forcing my legs to strain against loose gravel and shifting dust. The air grew thicker as I moved away from the chamber, harder to draw into my lungs. My flashlight beam bounced wildly across warped timbers and narrow bends. Behind me, the sounds followed, not chasing, working, the steady cadence of excavation continuing with relentless precision. The ceiling above the main shaft emitted a low, sustained groan. I didn't look back. I focused on the faint gray slate of night as the far end of the tunnel, willing it to grow larger. Halfway up the incline, the ground jolted sharply. I stumbled, catching myself against the wall just as a deep, resonant crack split the air behind me. The sound did not belong to a single beam breaking. It was broader, heavier. A section of the chamber had given way. Dust surged past me in a choking cloud, forcing me to cover my mouth and press forward blindly. The lantern glow flickered once against the stone behind me, bright enough to cast my shadow long and distorted across the tunnel walls. I risked a glance over my shoulder. The deeper shaft was no longer contained. Through the widening collapse, I saw movement, figures emerging through falling debris without resistance. Their shapes passed through splintering timber as if it were smoke. Lanterns remained upright in their hands, flames undisturbed by dust or gravity. They were not retreating from the collapse. They were advancing through it. The tunnel shuddered again. I pushed harder, lungs burning, boots slipping against coal dust that seemed to shift beneath me like sand. The slit of night had widened into the mine's entrance. Cold air struck my face. I lunged the final few steps and stumbled out onto the hillside, collapsing onto gravel just beyond the mouth of the shaft. Behind me, the mine roared, not explosively, but with the long, grinding collapse of something ancient settling into a new shape. The entrance sagged inward. Timbers snapped in sequence. Stone folded down upon itself. Within seconds, the opening I had emerged from was sealed by a wall of rock and debris. Silence followed, complete. No lantern glow seeped through the rubble. No voices drifted from beneath the earth. Only the distant sound of wind moving through the trees of the mountainside. I lay there for several minutes, staring at the newly formed barrier, waiting for some sign that it had been real. Then, faintly, so faint I almost dismissed it as memory, I felt it. A single, measured vibration beneath the ground, like the strike of a pick far below, continuing the shift. I did not leave the hillside immediately. I should have. Every sensible instinct told me to get in my truck, drive down the access road, and never return. But I remained there in the cold night air, sitting a safe distance from the collapsed entrance, listening. The forest had gone still, not insects, no distant coyote calls. Even the wind seemed to hesitate along the ridgeline. The rubble that now sealed the mine looked old already. Not freshly broken stone, but compacted earth, as though it had been undistributed for decades. The timbers that had snapped moments before were no longer visible, only a slope of rock and coal dust blending seamlessly into the mountainside. If someone had arrived then, they would have sworn no active entrance had ever existed. I stood slowly and approached the debris field. The ground felt firmer than it should have, compressed unnaturally tight. I crouched and pressed my palm against the stone, cold but not lifeless. There was a faint, intermittent tremor beneath it, regular, measured. I stepped back quickly. The vibration came again, subtle but undeniable, not chaotic shifting, not settling earth. A rhythm, strike, pause, strike. It traveled up through my boots this time, clearer now that I was standing. The cadence matched what I had heard into the chamber below. They were still digging, but not randomly. The tremor's direction felt vertical, upward, toward the surface. A line of dust slid down the rubble slope as if disturbed from within. Not enough to suggest immediate collapse, just a thin trickle marking internal movement. My breath fogged in front of me despite the mild temperature. The forest behind me creaked faintly as trees adjusted in a wind I could not feel. Then I saw it. 50 yards to my right, near a patch of scrub brush where no entrance had ever been mapped, the ground bulged slightly, not dramatically, just enough to distort the soil in a shallow dome. It subsided almost instantly, then rose again. A different spot this time, several feet farther along the slope. The tremor beneath my feet intensified. Strike, pause, strike, pause. I stepped back again, pulse hammering in my ears. The earth between the two bulges cracked open in a thin line. The crack, faintly, impossibly, a glow seeped through. Not white like a flashlight, not electric, warm, amber, lantern light. The crack widened a fraction of an inch. The glow brightened. Shadows moved beneath the soil, indistinct shapes passing beneath the thin barrier separating them from open air. The murmuring returned, muffled but unmistakable. Brace it, hold, almost through. The forest around me seemed to lean away from the hillside. Branches shifted, leaves rustled though no wind stirred them. The crack in the earth widened another inch. A fragment of timber pushed upward from beneath the soil, splintered but upright, as though used as leverage. The glow flared brighter, and a single, coal-darkened hand pressed up against the thinning crust of earth, not clawing, not grasping desperately, simply pushing, with patient, steady force. My breath caught in my throat. The hand remained pressed against the soil, blackened and coal-dusted, but the wrist and forearm that followed were impossibly long, skeletal yet covered in layers of dark, soot-like grime. It moved slowly, deliberately, sliding through the narrowing crack as if feeling its way into the open. I could hear the faint scraping of stone against nails, faint metallic echoes like picks striking buried rock. Then came another hand, from a second figure, emerging just beside the first. The glow from the faint lanterns beneath the ground illuminated roughened clothing, thick work shirts and suspenders that hung in folds, each thread coated in decades of dust. The figures were silent, no words, no movement beyond careful, precise motion. Yet the murmuring I had heard below reverberated in the very soil, carried upward in a rhythm that made the hairs on my arms stand on end. I stumbled back instinctively, but the tremors beneath me persisted. Strike, pause, strike. Each pulse felt like the mountain itself was alive, moving with purpose. The subtle vibration matched the movements of the figures beneath the surface. A third hand appeared, then a fourth, and I realized they weren't emerging haphazardly. They were working in unison, a coordinated effort to breach the surface, not to escape, not to confront. continue their work, uninterrupted by decades of darkness or abandoned tunnels. The first figure's lantern peeked fully through the crack now, illuminating a face partially hidden beneath coal dust. Still no distinguishable features, but the hollow shadow of a man's shape. The glow flickered with every small movement, throwing jagged shadows across the slope of the hillside. I froze, heart pounding. Every instinct screamed to flee, yet I was rooted to the spot. The air felt thicker now, charged with the weight of the unseen labor beneath the mountain. Then, a low, rhythmic sound filled the night air above the hillside. Not carried by wind, not echoing from the valley, but resonating directly through the soil beneath my feet. It was unmistakably human, and yet wrong. A chant, a command, I could not tell. The figures pushed higher than through the crack, their dark forms slipping upward, following the same cadence of picks and murmurs I had heard in the chamber below. They moved with eerie coordination, as though the mind itself had become an extension of their bodies, guiding them to a place I could not yet see. I backed farther, stumbling over roots and gravel, still fixated on the small opening. The glow intensified for a fraction of a second, then faded back into the thin amber light beneath the soil. Strike, pause, strike. The night was suddenly alive, but with a silence that demanded attention, an oppressive, patient vigilance. And then the glow disappeared entirely, leaving only the faint tremor beneath my feet, pulsing steadily like the heartbeat of something older than memory itself. The tremor beneath me persisted, subtle but relentless, as though the mountain itself had taken up a rhythm I could neither disrupt nor escape. Every step I took backward over loose gravel sent a shiver through the hillside, each echo blending with the low, distant hum that seemed to rise from the earth. I stopped again, forced by some instinct I didn't understand. The hillside before me was empty, calm, appearing entirely natural. No entrance, no glow, no fractured earth. The forest stretched silently in all directions, indifferent to what churned just beneath its surface. Then, faintly, a soft scraping sound reached my ears, distant but deliberate, not random, not wind or wildlife. Something moving beneath stone and soil with patient persistence. A lantern flickered briefly through a narrow hairline fracture in the earth, just enough to illuminate a hand again, dark with coal dust, fingertips brushing the surface like it had been working for decades without interruption. Another hand emerged next to it, then another. The murmur rose faintly, more distinct now, the cadence of voices speaking instructions. Steady, brace it. Almost through. The words echoed from the very heart of the mountain. I could not tell how many spoke, nor whether these were souls trapped in time or specters bound to labor that never ended. The sight of coordinated, purposeful effort beneath the surface made the hairs on my neck stand on end. I realized then that this was not a haunting in the traditional sense. There was not any spirit wandering aimlessly, nor remnants of fear and tragedy. They were miners and something like miners, continuing a shift begun decades ago, oblivious to the years that had passed above ground. The crack widened slightly. A faint amber glow poured upward, illuminating the coal-dusted forearms and torsos for the first figures. Their movements were meticulous, careful, as if each strike of the pick, each placement of a hand was part of a schedule that had persisted for half a century. I wanted to run, to call out, to disrupt this unnatural labor, but my body refused. I was caught in a liminal space between the real world and something older, stubbornly alive beneath the surface. Strike, pause, strike. The rhythm continued, the lanterns flickered, the hands worked, and I understood. with a chill that sank deep into my bones, that whatever existed in this mind had no intention of stopping, no awareness of time, and no need for permission. The mountain had claimed them, but they had claimed it in return, a partnership older than any record, unseen by any map, unstoppable and still very much alive. The night air grew colder, sharper, as if the mind beneath the hillside had exhaled and carried its chill up to the surface. I crouched beneath a tangle of brush, gripping my flashlight like a lifeline, yet barely daring to shine it on the disturbed slope. The faint amber glow beneath the soil had vanished again, but the tremor, the persistent, measured pulse remained, beating steadily through the ground beneath my boots. I realized then that I was no longer an observer. I had intruded into their rhythm, a rhythm older than memory, one that refused interruption. Strike, pause, strike. The cadence was unmistakable, as if the mind itself breathed through them, a slow, inexorable heartbeat that had continued long before I arrived and would continue long after I fled. A small rock shifted near the base of the crack, sliding outward with a whispering scrape. I tensed, expecting the hands to emerge again, but nothing appeared. Instead, a low murmur rose beneath me, a chorus of voices, more distinct than before, though still impossible to understand. They spoke in the clipped tones of laborers, issuing orders, coordinating motions, maintaining control of something far larger than themselves. I could sense the weight of history in their coordination, generations of miners, trapped or bound to the mountain, continuing the work that had consumed them in life and somehow persisted in death. I inched backward, my gaze fixed on the slope where the crack had formed. The earth seemed to flex subtly beneath me like muscle beneath skin. Every fiber of my being screamed to leave, yet I could not tear my eyes away. The miners, or whatever they were, moved as if time had no hold over them, completely indifferent to the surface world. Then the tremor paused. Complete stillness fell across the hillside. For a moment, the mountain seemed empty, and I allowed myself a shallow breath, thinking the worst was over, but the pause was a lie. Beneath the earth, the pick struck once more, a single, deliberate blow that resonated like a warning. The rhythm would continue, unbroken, long after I had gone. I understood in that instant that this mind was alive in a way no human eyes could fully grasp. The phantom miners were not ghosts in the traditional sense. They were the heartbeat of the mountain, bound to labor, unyielding, eternal, and nothing I could do, no step forward, no retreat, no recording, no testimony, would ever interrupt their shift. The hillside was silent now, too silent. The forest waited, holding its breath. The work continued beneath me, invisible, unstoppable, eternal. And I finally allowed myself to run. But even as I reached the edge of the tree line, the vibration beneath my feet pulsed once more. Strike, pause, strike. A reminder that the phantom miners were still at work, just as they had been for decades, centuries perhaps, continuing a shift that would never end. I did not return to that hillside for weeks, not because I was afraid, though I was, but because every rational thought struggled to reconcile what I had seen. Maps, records, local legends, all insisted the mine had been sealed, all insisted the men were gone, yet the ground itself had whispered the truth beneath my boots, and the rhythm of their labor haunted me long after I left. When I finally approached the site again, the slope appeared undisturbed, as if no collapse had occurred, as if no crack had split the earth. The timber, the stone, the uneven bulges in the soil, all gone. Only the hillside remained, serene and innocuous beneath the early morning sun. I stepped cautiously, scanning for the faintest trace of disturbance, the tiniest hint of coal dust or splintered timber. There was nothing, nothing except the subtle tremor beneath my feet, faint, almost imperceptible, the heartbeat of mine, still working, still alive, still unbroken. And I understood in the quiet clarity of that moment that the phantom miners were not bound to the past. They were not trapped by history. They existed in a perpetual shift, a rhythm older than any town or record or human memory, continuing their work in darkness beneath the layers of stone and soil that the living would never penetrate. No barricade could stop them, no record could claim them lost. They moved in silence beneath the surface, beneath time itself. Strike, pause, strike. And it would continue long after I had gone, long after the world had forgotten they existed. Eternal in their labor, eternal in their presence, a subterranean testament to the lives intertwined with the mountain itself. I turned and walked away, the sun breaking over the Appalachian mountain's ridge, but the vibration never left my feet. Strike, pause, strike, and I knew the phantom miners were still there, unseen but unyielding, carrying their shift into the endless dark.